Hi, everybody.
Hello, I'm Ryan.
I'm Bethany.
And we are Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews.
And today we'll be talking about Viticulture, the Essential Edition. This is designed by Jamie Stonemaier, Alan Stone. The artwork is by Jackie Davis, David Montgomery, and Beth Sobel. And it is, of course, published by Stonemaier Games.
All right, you guys, I am an expert at making wine after playing this game.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, no, this game teaches you everything you know about making wine. You just play cards down and you harvest things.
And you have wine.
And then you play another card and you have wine now. So I'm fully ready to teach everyone how to make wine if you guys are ready to learn. I mean, I'm sure it works the same way.
Yeah, exactly the same.
All right, you guys, let me show you how to make your own wine in Viticulture. All right, here is our personal player board for Viticulture. Everybody has 3 fields up here. One of them is worth 5, 6, and 7 lira. That's also how much they can hold, 5, 6, or 7 vines. Throughout the game, you're going to be planting vines on those cards. You're going to be harvesting grapes from them. You're going to be turning those grapes into wines, and then you're going to try to sell the wines. So the first thing you need to do, obviously, is plant the vines. So here's what the vines look like, something like this. They're going to show whether they make a white wine or a red wine. And some of them, the more advanced ones, are going to require some buildings as well. Like, for instance, this one requires what's called a trellis. So you're going to have to build that trellis first. This one requires an irrigation. This one actually requires both a trellis and irrigation, but it's going to give you a whole lot of grapes if you're able to harvest that. So over here, we have the irrigation symbol. It costs 3 lira, which is our money in the game. We'll put that there. That's the trellis. It costs 2. We can put that there once we build it. All right, so let's say that we planted this vine here, put it there. It's worth 2 of the white grapes. If we harvest from that vine, we're going to be able to put one of these little glass beads on the 2 white, showing that we now have a 2 white grape. Later on, when we turn it into wine, we're going to move it over into the wine cellar. Now it's shown that we have a 2 white wine, basically a white wine of a value of 2. Also, at the end of every round, they're going to age. You're going to get better and better. Obviously, the farther right along the chart we go, the better they are, the more they're worth. Also, right now we only start with a small cellar. You're going to have to build a medium and eventually a large cellar so you can get to make these better and better wines and have more of them. Obviously, red grapes make red wines. White grapes make white wines. If you want to make a blush, you can actually combine them. So let's say we had a 2 red and we had a 3 white. As long as we had the medium cellar built, when we make wine, we can combine them, a 2 red and a 3 white, to make a 5 blush. Similarly, all the way down here at the bottom here, we have our Sparklings. Sparklings takes 2 of the reds and 1 of the whites, and you have to have a large cellar in order to build it. And then once you do that, you can make these sparkling wines, which are going to be the most lucrative of all. There are some additional buildings that you can build. For instance, we have our cottage. A cottage allows you to draw some extra cards, some extra visitor cards, which can be really helpful. We have our tasting room. When you build a tasting room, there's a spot on the board where you can give a tour of your vineyard, and you get some money for that. As long as you have at least 1 wine in your cellar, you're going to get victory points for doing that as well, which is really great. There's a windmill that says whenever you plant a vine and you have the windmill built, you're going to get another point, which is great. Then there's the yoke. The yoke says you can actually uproot vines. Let's say you've got one on here that you don't want anymore. You can uproot it so that we can plant something else later on. Or you can harvest a field. The spot on the main board, maybe it's filled up and you really want to harvest a field. Building that yoke allows you to actually harvest a field no matter what. We've got our main workers over here as well as a big grande worker. I'll go over all of that in a moment. Now let's kind of flip over to the main board. All right, here is our main board where most of the actions are going to happen. Now, the game is going to be divided up into seasons. So, in our spring season, what we're going to do is we're actually going to choose our wake-up time. We got a little chart here all along the left side. Everybody has a little rooster. They're going to be able to place it, get a benefit based off of what time they wake up. And then, when we go to place our workers, we're going to resolve them in that order. So, the later you are to wake up, the better your benefit. However, as far as placing your workers on the board, you're going to be the last one. Each location has 3 of the circles, and based off the number of players, certain ones of them are going to be available. So for instance, in a 2-player game, only the left circle is available. In a 3 or 4-player game, the left 2 spots are available. And then in the 5 or 6-player game, all 3 are available. And if you notice, in the middle one, that is a kind of a bonus spot. Whenever you take an action that has a bonus spot, you have to complete the action first, and then you get that bonus. So for instance, here, if you sell at least 1 grape or buy or sell 1 field, you're going to get a victory point as well. Here, instead of planting a card, you can plant 2 cards. That's where going first in the order can kind of help, so you can kind of get some more of those bonuses. You maybe missed out on some bonuses here, but you might get some on the board to kind of make up for it. Now, Viticulture has been around for a little while, and there are different versions of the game. We are going to be talking about the Essential Edition. And the Essential Edition, one of the things that it comes with is the Mama and the Papa cards. These, first of all, make a really cute little locket. But second of all, what you're going to do is you're going to be dealt one of these things. So you're going to have a Mama and a Papa card. They're going to give you your starting resources. So, for instance, this particular setup, this Mama is Laura. She's going to give you 2 workers to start the game off with, 1 green card and 2 purples. This Papa is Jay. He starts you off with 5 lira, plus the Grande worker. I'll explain that in a minute. But then you have a choice down here. You can either have your yoke or 2 additional lira. So you have a choice there to make. And once you've done that, just for setup, you can get rid of those. But that just kind of gives everybody a little bit of a variable setup. All right, so you have your little workers, your regular workers, and then you have your Grande worker. What's going to happen is, with your little worker, when you place them, you get the benefit. But let's say the spot is filled up. You really wanted to plant another card, but it's a 2-player game. There's only 1 circle available to you. You can't plant another card. Well, guess what? Your Grande can. Your Grande can go there anyways and still take that action. You can't take the benefit, the kind of the bonus middle spot, but he can never be blocked out from taking an action. All right, going back to the concept of seasons, our spring is where we're going to wake up. Our summer is where we're going to take all these yellow actions over here. In the fall, we're going to get a chance to draw some cards, either a yellow or a blue, and I'll explain those in a minute. And then in the winter, we're going to do all the winter actions over here that have to do with kind of harvesting our grapes and making wines. And then at the end of the year, we have a little bit of resolution, some income that might come in, that kind of thing. All right, so our different kinds of cards. We have our green cards, which are our vines, like we talked about earlier. We have our yellow and our blue cards. Those are visitor cards that are going to help you out, kind of give you some special rules, like to break some rules, advanced actions, those kinds of things. The yellow ones primarily have to do with the summer season. The blue ones primarily have to do with the winter season. There are some exceptions, of course. And of course, then our purple cards are our wine cards. Those are going to be our orders. All right, so looking at one of these purple cards, we've got over here on the top left what they're requiring to sell this. This time they want a 9 level of sparkling wine. So that's going to be taking a little bit to make. But when we sell it, we're going to get 5 victory points. Also, we're going to get 2 of the residual income. Along the bottom right of the board here, we have kind of a residual income track. So if we were to make that card, we would be able to put this on the 2 residual or the orange player. At the end of every year, we're going to get an additional 2 lira back from the bank. There's a lot of different spots on the board, ways to gain some income. You can even train more workers over here. But the main thing that kind of flows the game is you're going to first want to draw some green cards. Then you're going to want to plant them over here into your vines. Then over in the winter side, you are going to want to harvest your fields so you can actually make some grapes. You want to turn the grapes into wines over there. And then at the far bottom over here, you want to fulfill those grape orders, those wine orders, by using one of those purple cards. So that's kind of the flow of the game. There's obviously lots of other things you can do, but that's how a grape starts from a plant and goes all the way to income for you. We start at 0 points. There are ways to go negative. Some of the cards might say, hey, you can lose a point in order to gain $3 or whatever the case is, something like that. But overall, you're going to be moving up on the track. Once one player hits that 20-point mark, that's going to trigger the end of the game. You are still going to finish that entire year, but at the end of that final year, whoever has the most victory points wins the game.
I love having that Grande worker. Like, it can get really tight when you play this game, and so sometimes you're not always getting the options that you want. But you always have that worker, so you can almost guaranteed to get one thing you want. Also, how you're choosing who goes first in the morning. I mean, that really affects what you're going to do, because some of the stuff, the later on stuff, gives you a lot of, like, an extra worker. You get an extra worker, but then you're going last, and so you get the last chance to do anything. But sometimes you might really need that extra worker, which is why I think having that Grande worker works really well. So you can try to divvy out what you need, but also have this knowing I need to do this thing for sure, and so kind of guaranteeing that you can do that. So I really like how you have that coupled with the turn order of waking up earlier gets you little benefit, but you get all the choices.
Yes. The progression of this game is so cool. I mean, everything kind of makes sense to me, at least. You have to have, you have to plant the cards first, then you have to harvest the fields, then you have to make the grapes into wine, and then you sell the wine.
Yes.
And you kind of follow that progression over and over and over again. It just makes sense, especially the way it's laid out as far as the summer actions and the winter actions. And there's short-term things that you can do as well by building buildings, trying to get some points that way, playing cards. But then there's the longer-term strategy as well over the course of the game. So you are trying to maximize both of those avenues of points, so that way you can win the game. And I just love how you have that mix of short and long-term strategies.
Yeah. This game I felt was incredibly balanced. I thought that, and they did that with the Essential Edition when it came to the cards that were in there. They only pulled out the cards that they felt were the most balanced, and I truly think that's the case. When somebody won this game, it wasn't that they went out of luck, and I didn't feel like, oh, if I only had 2 more turns. I mean, that's true. I mean, you do feel like that, but at the end of the game, it wasn't like it was luck or just getting in the right place at the right time. Like, when people won, they won because they played well. And so when I lost, it's because I didn't play well. But I just really like that. Like, the visitor cards were extremely balanced. And it wasn't like when you're drawing these cards, it's not like, oh, you only won because you got that card. Like, that just didn't happen in this game. And so I liked how balanced that was.
All the options on your turn were always clear to you. You could look at the board and see what you could do.
Yeah.
And it made a lot of sense to me. And there was always something to do. There's always you might money some grab. You can make some plays towards building a building, so that way later on you'd have something to do. And there's always meaningful choices on your turns. There came a point maybe towards the end of the game where it was kind of a little bit more obvious, like, okay, you've got to just sell a wine. You just need to in order to get a big influx of points. But overall, there's always meaningful choices and things that you can build towards on every turn. So you're never just like, I have nothing to do here. Everything's blocked off. Whatever. Yeah. You always have choices, which I thought was great.
So overall, right, like, what did I really think of the game? Here is what I think is the main strength to this game that I really enjoyed. I could set out to do something. I could accomplish that, and I can still lose, but because I had the ability to do what I set out to do, I still feel accomplished, even if I lost. If I have these cards and I want to sell X amount of wine to these people, and I do, even if I don't win, like, I did something. I was able to accomplish something. And I like that feeling and that sense that you get even if you lose. And so I think that's an incredible plus to this game. It's how I felt when I was playing. It doesn't help when Ryan is always like winning or losing by 1 point. So he might not feel the same way.
but I always lose by 1 point. I never win by 1 point.
Yeah. But I just really liked that. I really liked that. I felt like even when I lost, I was still able to do what I wanted to do.
To me, I have a complicated history with this game. I was taught it incorrectly, and I just didn't get it. And nothing made sense. Like, what is happening here? Why can't I get anything done? And then the next time I played it, it was online on Board Game Arena, and I was still kind of carrying, even though the game's not programmed that way, I still had those ideas in my head, like, why can't I click on the things that I need to click on? Why isn't it doing what I want to do? It just didn't make any sense to me. And so I didn't... I don't know. It just felt like I was struggling with this game a whole lot. But it wasn't until I got the game in my hands, I read the rulebook myself, learned it the correct way, then everything changed. And I was like, holy smokes, this is a lot of fun. Now everything's clicking. Now everything's making sense. So, make sure you're the one who reads the rulebook, or make sure you learn it the right way. I mean, it's such a, it should make sense, but one small rule change or 1 or 2 small rule changes, and I was just flustered.
Well, because they weren't small
rule
changes. Yeah, that affected the game.
So, and also we played at 6 players. It plays up to 6 players, which is great. I would recommend it. It's way too long in between turns, and also the board is just really messy at that point. So, final thoughts. Now that I know the right way, oh my gosh, I love the heck out of this game. I love worker placement. It's one of my favorite mechanisms, and this is quickly becoming one of my favorite worker placement games just because of that. Oh my gosh, everything makes sense. Everything flows really well. You have meaningful decisions on every turn. You have a great progression of the arc of the game. I recommend this highly.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see our videos as they come out. Until then, you can find us on Facebook. We're Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews. On Instagram, we are Ryan and Bethany. On TikTok, we are Ryan and Bethany. And on Twitter, we are Ryan and Bethany 1.
You guys, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye.